All right. Hello, class. We are going to talk about SASS today. So SASS is superpower CSS. So you're going to see a lot of I'm going to show you 4 different features that SASS can do in this tutorial. All right. So the first thing you want to do is download the sample file that I have given you with Day 1 SASS. And when you open this up, you'll see that we still have a CSS folder, an images folder with some images in it, an index file that's all set up and ready to kind of go. And this CSS file, this index HTML is linking to a normal style sheet.css. So where does SASS come in here? So we're going to be writing all our CSS in the SASS file. And we're going to be using a compiler that's going to take that SASS, crunch it up, and spit it out to be a normal CSS file. So what we need to do is download a compiler. So in Visual Studio Code, we already have downloaded our live server. We're going to just do a search under SASS. And we're going to download 2 different things. We're going to download this SASS that helps to add some color, helps autocomplete. And then we also need our compiler. It looks like a little eyeball icon. So it's called Live SASS Compiler by Glenn Mark. So we're going to download both of those. All right, ready to go. Great. So now we can go back here and you'll notice now down at the bottom where the Go Live button is, right next to it, you'll also see a Watch SASS button. So we are going to go click on our SASS file and you can kind of see here, it looks just like a CSS. There's nothing different, but there's nothing in it yet. So what we're going to do is on this file, I'm just going to come down to my bottom bar and I'm going to say Watch SASS. This needs to be checked when you're working on your website, or it's not going to be writing anything into your CSS. So it's not going to be compiling. It's not going to be taking this and moving it over. So just to give you an example. So now you can see that we have both the SASS and the CSS. You're never, ever, ever going to type into this file. You're always going to type into the SASS file and let this compiler move everything over to the CSS. Example, I'm in SASS and I'll just do body background color yellow, right? And hit save on my keyboard. So I can see down here, it was successful. It's watching. There's like an output form that says it's watching. And if I click over to my CSS, you can see that it has the same exact thing that I just typed in my SASS. So it's going to come over here. Now, a nice thing about SASS is if there's a problem, you'll see the number of problems right here next to problems. So right now I have 0 problems. So let's give a problem quick and watch what it says. So if I get rid of one curly brace and hit save, you can see here now it says 1 problem. I have a curly brace issue online, and it should say somewhere here. Let's just see. Here it says on line 20. So line 20 is all the way down here because basically this curly brace they're thinking is down here. So there's a problem somewhere. So if I add that curly brace back and hit save, you can see that problem has gone away. So this is going to help red flag some issues too, which is super exciting. All right, so I'm going to get rid of, well, we can just keep this here, body. That's always great. And in here, we're going to do font size 100%, which allows me to use M's in my document. And then right underneath that, I'm going to type IMG max width 100%, which allows me to have responsive images. So these 2 should always be in your file. Next up, I want to add my fonts, and we're going to use two fonts from Google, but instead of adding it to our index file, we're going to add it to our SASS file, which again is going to help with maintenance. Let's say we wanted to change this font years from now, we could change it on just one page instead of all our HTMLs. So I'm going to jump over to Google, and I say Google Fonts, and go in here, and we're going to download Lato regular. So I'm going to scroll down here to regular 400 and click yes. And then I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to do Laura, L-O-R-A. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to do the same thing, regular 400. Nothing, whoops, did I get too crazy? I did. Regular 400. And I'm going to hit the little plus sign, which puts both of them into my tray over here on the right. So normally we highlight both of these, all these links, and put them in the head of our HTML. But instead, we're going to hit this button right next to link as the @import option. And I'm not going to take the top and bottom tag. I'm just going to take all the middle information and hit Command C. And then I'm going to hop back over to Visual Studio Code. And at the top of my SASS, I'm going to paste that in and hit save. So this is another way that we can import our fonts into our file. Super easy, super quick. And again, since this is connected to all your HTML, it makes it really easy to update later if you had a font change. All right, so one of the first benefits of using SASS is you can use variables. And variables, just like in algebra class, when you had something that was like x equals 1 or y equals -8, it's kind of that same exact thing, except we can do it with font colors and we can do it with hex colors, we could do it with fonts, we could do it with numbers. We can use this variable throughout our page. Very exciting. So right underneath, it has to be at the top and it's going to be right under my font. I'm going to do $ font1 : and then I'm going to hop back to Google Fonts and I'm going to bring over this first one, which was Lato and sans serif. Pretty easy. I could have typed that like so. So notice I didn't bring over the font family with it, just the name of the font. And notice that I could include that sub font. And then I'm going to do it has to have a semicolon at the end. I'm going to do the other font. So $font2 : and that one's Laura, I know, and it's Sarah. I can copy it from Google Fonts or I could type that in. Make this a little bit bigger so you can see. Zoom stuff out of the way. All right. And this output always comes up. So now you can see these are a variable. So it has this $ in front of it for the name. And this name doesn't have to be font1. This name could be apples, oranges, unicorns, potatoes. It does not matter. I just chose font1 and font2 so I could kind of keep track of them and something easy. So this is going to be really useful as we start bringing in our fonts down below. Let's do the same thing with like some of our hex colors. And I am going to hit enter and I'm just going to do, let's say, primary color, right? : and then I'm going to do a hex color and I'm not entirely sure what this color, I forget what it is. I'm going to like, what color is that you're trying to type? Let me pick the color for us. I had a pink, oops, excuse me, pinkish color that I was using. Something like this is fine. Okay. So I'm going to do a hex color here, and I did F5074E. And then I'll do a subcolor and do a pound sign. I did like an olive color. That's fine. So I did 808000. And then finally, I'm just going to do one more, and I'm going to do a BG color. So this is my background color, which is white. So it's FFF. So here I'm kind of setting this up, and we always do this before, but we usually do it in the comment section above, right? We usually do it up here, but now we're just doing it in these variables. I'm going to save that. Now you can peek over at your CSS. So you can see here that it included the font, it included the body and image tag, but it doesn't have any of your variables because those are not CSS, that's SASS only. All right, now we have to put some content in our index so we can actually use our variables. So I'm going to come back to the index, go down into my body section, and I'm going to do a section, open, close. And then in section, I'm going to do a header, which is going to include a logo. And I have an SVG that we're going to put in here called top logo. Let's see. SVG. And I'm going to put that right in the middle here. Save. Now, SVGs are scalable vector graphics, meaning they're not going to pixelate. And if I preview this, you can actually see, look how large this is. SVGs do not have a width and a height. They're going to take up as much room as they can, but they're going to look good the whole time they're doing it. So you can see how crisp and clean this looks here. So if I hop back here, we have our SVG in. That looks great. And then underneath that, let's put our nav bar. So I'm going to have an open and close nav. And in there, I'll do href. I'll just put a pound. I don't know where this is going to go yet, or if it's going to go anywhere. And we'll do an about. This is like a farm to table website. And I'm going to do a menu and a contact. All right, now we have some content. We can hop back over to our SASS and we can use some of our variables to make this look better. So back here in our body, I'm having to have a really big background image. It's a picture of a chicken that's going to be fixed there in the background. So in the body, I want to add the image. So I'm going to do a background image URL. And it's just called BG. And every time you hit save, it has that output. So I have to try to not, by habit, every time you hit save, it's going to compile your SASS and update your index. So it's good to do that often, but background size cover, background, what else do we need here? Attachment fixed, and then background position center. All right, we didn't use any SASS there, but if you wanted to peek over at what you had, you can kind of see now we have this nice large image in the background. Our logo's on top of it, and it's kind of nice and scalable. You can kind of see the chicken kind of moves with it pretty decently. All right, so next up, we're going to add all the new tags that we add. So we had a section. So we do section curly braces, nav curly braces. And in the section, what we're going to put here is we can use one of our variables. So let's do a background color, and I'm going to have it be this BG color. So what I'm going to do is do $BG color. So you can see here that we're using a variable instead of typing out FFF. Now this comes in handy that if you're using this color throughout. I'm using white, this background color, and you show it to your client, and the client says, on let's say 100 pages, you have a website that's 100 pages, you show it to the client, and the client says, I don't want white as the background color. I want ivory on all 100 pages. So instead of going back and changing this throughout all these pages and all different parts, I could just change one variable and it would be fixed. Pretty cool. So here you can see that looks good. And now let's give it a couple sizes. So I'm going to give it a width of 100%, but then I'm going to give it a max width of 600 pixels. So what that allows it to do is it's not going to be able to get any bigger than that, which is going to keep this nice bar. And I'm going to have just a bar of all my contact on the left. Now, let's say I want to kind of show through. You can see here, this is really white and it's going to start hiding this beautiful background image. If I come up to my BG color and I click once on that white swatch, I can come here to the slider and move this down, and it's going to give me a little opacity on that color. That's better. And then finally for section, I'm going to give it a height. I'm going to give it a height of 100 VH. So that VH stands for viewpoint height. So it's going to go from head to toe. Oops, I didn't hit save. So you can see here that now it goes from head to toe, the top of the web page to the bottom of the web page. And we have that really slight transparency that will just add some depth. Okay, so let's do our nav bar. So for our nav bar, we're going to use another really fun and usable part of SASS, which is nesting. So what I can do is I can open up nav here, and inside nav, I'm going to put A squigglies. What this means is that only the A's in the nav, so we're kind of putting this within here, are going to look like this. I can also put A : hover, because I'm going to have some hover effect. So on A, I can choose my font family. I'm going to use one of my variables. I'm going to use font number 1. And I'm going to choose a color, and I'm going to use $, my primary color. And then finally, I'm going to do a font size. And for this, I'm going to use M's, and let's just do 2.5 M's. It's fine. So 2.5 M's would generate to, let's see, 16 times 2 is 32 plus 8 is 40 pixels. So remember, it's 16 pixels per M. So when I hit save and I go back to look at this, you can kind of see there's our buttons. They're the pink, they're the Lotto. We just want to get rid of that underline, and then we'll add a hover effect. So another nice feature of SASS is you can do a lighten or darken effect. So I could do the color here. I want to lighten the primary color, comma, by 15%. Hit save. So now when I preview this and I hover over it, we should have, what am I missing here? Oh, I spelled lighten wrong. That would help. Let's get rid of that space. There we go. And there can't be a space in between there. You can kind of see that difference. So when I come back here, now you can see that it's lightening it by 15%. So I don't need to go back to Illustrator and use my color picker and come up with a color. This is actually doing it for us. So it's lightening the primary color by 15%. If I come and just peek over at my CSS, remember we don't touch that, but you can see that it generated the hex color for that, and it filled in all those rules with those variables with our hex colors and font. Great. So this is nesting, and I love that it helps the color, and you can tab in, and it looks nice and organized. So we went over variables being one of the amazing SASS, nesting being another, and lighten or darken. I should also just kind of mention that you could put darken here if you wanted to darken the hover effect by 15. Now, the last effect that I want to go over is mix-ins. And mix-ins are kind of like character styles in InDesign that we could, variables can only hold one number or one object, one hex color. But if we did a mix-in, it can do multiple. So a great way to use this is with Flexbox. So if I do at mix-in, give it a name, I'm going to call it Flex. I could do multiple rules here. So I could say display, flex, flex, wrap, flex, direction, row, justify. This is the ones that I always use. And it's, I think let's do between, okay. These four. And if I put them in a mix-in, I can call them down below with one line. So if I come down to my nav, I did that mix-in at the top. So I call it by doing at include spacebar flex and hit save. Make sure there's no problems. And then you can see over here that it flexed these nicely in my nav. I'm just going to hop back here because I don't want space around. I want space around, not space between. So it doesn't touch the sides. And that's how you use a mix-in. You can do this with fonts. So I could do a whole body copy with a font color, a font size, some kerning, etc., and then call it down below. Pretty cool. All right, so let's just see. We're going to just do a couple little things here to just bring this point home. I'm going to do an H1, a paragraph, and 2 images. So if I go back to my index, underneath my nav, I'm going to do an H1. Paragraph. This is a paragraph. And then I'm going to do a div called pictures. And inside that div, I'm going to put 2 images. There's one image called food in there, and then there's another image called plates. Okay, save that. So we can add this now to our SASS file. So up here, right underneath our nav, I'm going to do section, squigglies, open that up. And inside you put the H1 and the paragraph and the period pictures. They're all actually nested inside of there. For the H1, we can do some more font stuff again. So I could do, let's just do font size. Oh, I don't know. Let's do 2 M's and then, oops. Font family. And for this one, I'll do the Laura. So I'm going to do font 2. And then actually for this one, I'll do font 1. And the color, I'll still do primary, but then for the paragraph, okay. Color, colon, primary color. So I'm using these again, my font family. And then for this one, I'm going to just do font family, font 2, and then color, I want that olive color. So that would be subcolor. Font size 1.5 pence. All right, save. So if I look over here, you can kind of see we have all our type now nicely in there. Now one thing that kind of bothers me is notice how everything is so touchy. So I want to put padding on my section to kind of give it a little space. So I'm going to come up here to section and I'm going to add padding, 50 pixels. And whenever you add padding, you want to add box sizing border box so it doesn't mess up your math. You can kind of see how that kind of helps a little bit. All right, so let's just get these pictures together, being side by side with some flex box again. So I'm going to come in here and inside pictures, I'm going to do my @include to include my flex, semicolon, and then I'm going to hit save. And you can see it now they're flexed, but we got to give them a size. So I'm going to add one more div in there because the images are inside pictures and do a width of 45%. All right, that looks great. Just to add a little bit more padding in certain places and to demonstrate this, I could make a variable of a number. So I could make a variable of, call it padding 50. And just do 50 pixels, right? So I'm just having it hold a number of 50 pixels. So then let's say I could do on nav padding bottom, I can do that same number. So in this case, it would be padding 50. And I probably want to maybe do it underneath my paragraph too, because it's a little touchy. And I could just include that padding 50 in different places to add space. All right, so let's just look at what this looks like on tablet. So when we hop down here to tablet, you can kind of see it's off to the side a little bit. I just want to center it. So I'm going to come down here to tablet and add section, squiggles, margin auto. And add that also to mobile. And also add in here in the section, it has to be the same as up above. There's a pictures, and in the pictures, there's images that were 45 up there. And here I want the width to be 100%. So one good thing to note is the same naming configuration that you have up here needs to be down in mobile for it to work. I hit save, there's no problems. There's tablet, and then let's go down to mobile where those images stack. All right, guys, so that's SASS. Pretty cool, pretty neat. Hope that helps.